So I think, it's kind of it's a story of how important it is to plan the transition of a successful family-owned business. So in this circumstance, I had a father who was a very, very successful chiropractor and had built a really incredible chiropractic practice. And as his sons grew, they each became chiropractors, and he made them minority partners or minority shareholders in the business. His wife was not a chiropractor, but worked in the business, helping manage the books and billing. But the business really exploded. They were really incredibly successful. And unfortunately, Dad unexpectedly quickly passed away. And when he did, his estate plan had not considered the transition of that family business. And so as a result, his wife inherited a professional corporation, the stock in a professional corporation as a chiropractic practice. And his sons were still minority shareholders and still basically operating the entire practice. His wife ultimately retired, but still owned an interest in the business, vast majority interest in the business. And his sons, to do right by their mother, continued to keep her on salary and contribute to her 401k plan, even though she was financially very well off and didn't need any of that. And so ultimately, I came into the scenario to talk to them about estate planning, wealth management planning, and the succession plan for this business. And I realized that they were spending an enormous amount of money on Mom's salary and contributions to a 401k plan, and were not gaining any additional interest in the company. And candidly, under the professional services law, Mom couldn't even be that shareholder. She didn't have the correct license to be a shareholder in the company. And so looking at the amount of expendable cash flow that they had, the cash flow that they could allocate to this successful transition, the business was large enough that if, God forbid, Mom died without a plan, we were going to have a very significant inheritance and potentially federal estate tax issue. So I came to them with a plan that said, instead of allocating that cash flow to a salary to Mom and contributing to her 401k plan, which she did not need, let's get into a plan of redeeming Mom's stock in the company. Let's enter into an agreement that obligates her to sell that stock in the company. Let's value that company and get it as inexpensively valued as possible, as we could, allocate given the Internal Revenue Service regulations. And let's use that same cash flow to redeem her stock in the company. Stop all the contributions to retirement plans and so forth. And in doing so, by redeeming her stock, the two brothers that were running the business and actually growing the practice even beyond what their father had done would gradually increase their interest in the company by the simple fact that they were redeeming their mother every year, and they were the only three shareholders. In doing that, by a total stock redemption, we were able to take that cash flow to Mom and convert it from ordinary income to capital gains income, long-term capital gain income. So instead of her paying in excess of 35% in federal tax and several percent in state tax, she had long-term capital gains where we capped her out at a 20% tax for federal purposes. And so not only was Mother in a better position, their mom in a better position financially, not only were they now gaining ownership and control of the business, still with the same cash flow, allocating the same cash flow to Mom, but they were doing so in a fashion that ultimately, before Mom passed, unless she passed suddenly, they'd have the money to redeem her. We also, because Mom was in good enough condition, bought a very inexpensive life insurance policy on Mom, so that if she did die prematurely, they were the beneficiaries. They would use that money ultimately to redeem any additional stock or cross-purchase any additional stock should she pass prematurely. And so we just simply reallocated the cash flow so that they could acquire this company over time, create a much better tax plan for Mom, substantially overwork their estate plan, and in particular Mom's estate plan, for a much better result. And, candidly, the first question they asked me once I explained the plan was, why didn't my prior lawyer explain this was an option? Why didn't we know to do this before? We had been paying Mom a salary for a number of years that could have been allocated to this redemption plan for the last 10 years since Dad died, right? And we could have valued the company for that redemption purpose as the value at that time, not the value 10 years later where they had substantially grown the value of the company. So that's the kind of tax planning that we think is so critical when it comes to business succession planning and estate planning overall.